some news that happened last week after we recorded. Jaykwon Walton popped up out of nowhere at the University of Memphis. We were fortunate enough to have him and Javon Quinterly in studio on Friday.
Well done with that, by the way.
Thank you. So if you've not seen those interviews yet, you can go to our YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. You can check out both of those interviews. Great guys, great interviews. It was a lot of fun talking to both of them. JQ is a freaking pro on the camera. Like, I mean, he's a 5-star in high school. The Jelly Fam movement stuff started when he was a sophomore in high school. So he's had cameras around him forever and done hundreds and hundreds of interviews with people with way bigger names than me. So dude is a pro. Like, he sat down and was just like, all right, let's riff, let's go. And he 30 minutes, and we probably could have went for an hour and a half. Dude,
he's
was
cashing in on some NIL deals too.
Yeah, dude.
He's got Brookhaven. He's got he did the whatever it's called. It's like the locker, the
sports
college
trunk,
the
sports
players trunk,
where
players
he put in all his Alabama and Villanova stuff.
Yeah.
It sold 80% of it was gone by the morning.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Like, if anybody for real wants a spokesperson for their whatever business that comes from the University of Memphis basketball program, like,
nobody better, man.
He's at the top of that list, and he's a great face for the University of Memphis basketball program overall. And Jaykwon was awesome too, like in totally different ways. And it's what I love about athletes and sports in general. Like, you can sit down and talk and have a conversation with someone, and they both be great in different ways. And Jaykwon's was more raw and authentic. We talked about some of the stuff that he's been throughout his career over the last several months, the Alabama situation, and he was open and honest about it. And, you know, talked to him beforehand and was like, look, if you don't want to go there, we don't have to go there. I mean, we try to be very forthcoming, but we try to be very accommodating to people that we have in here. And, you know, if there's a situation that doesn't need to be touched on, or they don't want to be touched on, of course, we're not going to go there. And he was like, yeah, I haven't had a chance to talk about it and kind of tell my part of the story and just put my narrative out there. And it was like, well, that's what this is for.
Right.
You know, like, this is what this is for, is to give you a spotlight and platform to do what you want to do. So like I said, if you haven't seen those, go check them out. Both of those guys are awesome. Expect big things from them this year. But yeah, Jaykwon Walton, very surprising, but massive addition.
It was very badly kept secret for about a day and a half, though, wasn't it?
It was.
Right, because he had committed to UCF. The Alabama thing flew by, because I think it's very reasonable to believe that Alabama had been through so much gun stuff with Darius Miles and Brandon and all that, where as soon as they heard anything about a gun or possession of weed, they're like, you know what, I don't want to do this from a PR standpoint. I just don't think it's worth it to us. I think that's very reasonable, because ultimately Jaykwon Walton doesn't have anything to his name. Like, there's no charges on him.
Right.
So, like, realistically, Alabama probably could have stuck by him. But anyway, he commits to UCF, and then he decides late, hey, gets to campus, signs papers for Memphis, and says, I'm on campus.
Yep.
And when he committed, right, when people figured out that he was going to be coming to the University of Memphis, he was already at practice. He was practicing. Like, and that also does highlight, like, Penny Hardaway this offseason. I don't care how late in the clock it is, late in the calendar. Like, the amount of, like, commitments he's gotten in the dark, in the quiet.
Yeah.
David Jones, Nick Jourdain, Jaykwon Walton. It's insane. It's different than what we've come accustomed to, of, like, hearing the murmurs and the whispers
and
building up. It's just like, nope, he's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
in the dark of the night.
And it's a good addition from so many perspectives, because Kenny pointed this out when we talked about it. We did a commitment podcast on it, that we've been, you and I have been talking about. The 3-point shooting is like, maybe he had left some to be desired.
40%. Though.
This is a guy that in the same conference last year at Wichita State averaged nearly 14 points per game and shot 40% from three.
Yep.
Is a hyper efficient scorer. Like, he doesn't take a lot of shots, but he doesn't miss a lot of shots. He's a really good player. I think he was over 80% or maybe 80% on the nose from the free throw line. So he's a good shooter from everywhere. 6'7", good length, athletic, defensive ability. Like, he checks so many boxes. And we talked about everything around last week was TFAO Leonard, right? Like, what is this? I think when we recorded last week, he still hadn't made his announcement, but he ultimately decided he was going to go pro. We knew where it was headed. But we were like, he was a luxury piece. Yep. Like, we felt like him leaving didn't change the ceiling of this team. too much. Maybe, maybe a little bit,
yeah.
but that it was more of a luxury piece. And I would argue that the upside with Jaykwon Walton,
I don't know if it's arguable.
I don't either. Just because of the offensive ability.
It's an upgrade on that luxury piece.
I do too.
I mean, dude shoots 40% from three.
Yeah.
He's confident from there too. And he's got the size to replace TFA Leonard, maybe a little less on the defensive end, but you need more offensive punch.
Yeah,
and he gives
and
you
that's what
that
he
off
gives.
the bench. There has been some debate of okay, David Jones or Jaykwon Walton in the starting lineup if DeAndre Williams comes back. I think there's a debate to be had there, but I also think David Jones would be probably a better fit alongside all those other offensive pieces because he's going to give you that rough and tumble, hard-nosed defense, rebounding. He's going to get down and dirty. He's not necessarily a three-point shooter, but he'll try to get to the rim and rough people up. Whereas Jaykwon Walton, I think, if he was your sixth man, come off, let him just be cooking offensively. Let him
run the show. Let him run the show.
And I think that would just be a great idea, but obviously you have to see how things fall into place. But I think after TFA Leonard Jr. left, I said it was a luxury piece, and I think they did better in replacing him with Jaykwon Walton than they could have ever hoped for.
Yeah, because what we talked about was the defensive upside with TFA Leonard, and it was clearly there. He's one of the better defensive players really in the country. He could have been the best defensive player in the conference, but this team is already so defensive centric. Like, yes, they have some guys that can score, but there's so many good defensive players on this team, and having another guy that can be an elite scorer is a thing that I will take absolutely, and fans will as well. Especially when it's like he walks in the door as the best 3-point shooter on the team.
Yeah, and you don't. I mean, as much as I liked the roster even before him, you really didn't have Jonathan Pierre can shoot from three, but he's going D2 to D1, and that was probably your biggest hope on the three
for a high
level, high efficient,
or JQ because he's had
3-point guy. But also
40s.
He was 33% last year.
But he had season in
he had
40.
Yeah, but I don't know. That was. I'm not saying it was a missing piece because I thought they had plenty before that, but
it just took that up so much higher.
To add to it that way, the 3-point shooting I think was phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal.